What's good, everyone? Big Said back in the place. Wait, my screen is messing up. I don't know why, but okay, there we go. Hey, what's everybody? Big Said industry cosign. The latest version of My Friends Are Better Than Yours. If this is your first time here, thank you for coming through. I have been doing this for years, and I'm used to dealing with celebrities, executives, and things of that nature. I get sick of them. They probably don't like me. I don't care. But the main purpose for me doing this is I know a lot of people who are doing great things, and I'd rather showcase and spotlight them, so that way you can find out somebody else is doing good as well. So today we have Yussuf Khan. I used to do bios, but I don't even do bios anymore. But in fact I let him do a little intro, and then we'll just take it from there. Good afternoon. Well, good evening, Yussuf
How
Khan.
you doing, Big Said? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for taking a bribe. No.
As long as the check clears, I'll be all right.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll worry about that later. No. What's good, man? Who are you?
Everything is good, man. Well, let's see. Who am I? I am a longtime sports business industry veteran. Been in the sports media industry now for 26 years, going on almost 27 years now. Um, Started at ESPN, moved into startups with a bunch of different startups. Ran the Shadow League, where obviously we met and did some work. And then during COVID, I left and decided to launch my own sports site, which is First and Pen, which has been going well. We're about to hit 5 years in January. And I also teach sports management at a few different universities in New Jersey and New York. And things are good. Just ended the semester. So turned in all the grades yesterday. So I get a couple weeks off before we start it all off again. But glad to be here and kicking it, and glad to be speaking with you and everybody.
No doubt, and congratulations to a successful year. I'm hoping it's a successful school year, I should say. So,
Yes.
but so as you stated, we met at the Shadow League. The Shadow League, they had a partnership with Black Enterprise, right? I can't.
Originally we launched. So our CEO Keith Scales came from ESPN, and he launched the site in 2012 after he left ESPN. And then I started in beginning of 2013, and then he promoted me to run it in June of that year. So I ran it for almost 7 years. But I think in 2014 we had moved over to the east side and partnered with Black Enterprise,
Yeah.
on a couple different things. So yeah, it was what, 5 years, roughly 5 years was the partnership.
And what's good, Mr. Clink Scales? I used to harass Keith every chance I got at Vibe, and then of course, that's why he never came to the office when I worked at Black Enterprise, because he knew I was there. But um,
Yeah, I mean, everyone has seemed to be. He's like the Kevin Bacon of urban life, right? The 6 degrees of Keith
please,
Scales. Everyone sees to connect with him either through Vibe or ESPN, Shadow League, Revolt. So he's
yeah,
well connected, well known.
yep. But enough about him. Now let me stop. So let's. Where did you grow up?
So I'm born and raised New York City kid, Upper West Side, 70s baby, New York City. And been there. My family's still in the same place, so didn't go too far.
And the reason why I asked, because typically the people that I speak to, everyone's like across the country, and I always try to figure out or find out what led them into. I mean, being in New York, it doesn't really matter because New York has everything. But I wanted to find out what led you into the industry specifically, and how were you able to get in? I mean, we were, well, when we kind of got in, um, it was definitely different than what it is now.
Yep.
But you kind of had to know somebody. But we also came in at a time. I think I might be a couple of months older than you, but we came in at a time where we actually created our own job, so to speak. But I do know that at one point in time, you had to either know somebody or at least be educated. So, what was your entry point into the business aspect of the entertainment industry, whether it's sports music or whatever?
So it's interesting. So my junior year in college, if I can go back many, many decades, um, my sophomore year in college, two of our DJs on campus were graduating. And I realized we wouldn't have any more parties. There was nobody to DJ anymore. So that summer, I worked basically 6, 7 days a week, saved up all my money, bought myself Technics 12s and a new Mark mixer, and bought about $2,000 worth of records and taught myself how to DJ. And so I DJed for, my God, 20 something years, did it on campus at school, and then for about 10 years, 10 plus years or so, 15 years, in New York City, doing different parties all over the city. And during that time, I was also working in banking. So that was my full-time job, right? And, we have to have side jobs during that time, of course. So, every Friday, Saturday, I was doing a lounge or a club or things like that. And I ended up meeting a lot of people. And one of the people I met had told me about the business of sports. And they were like, if you're not going to get into music business, because, obviously I knew a lot of people in the industry, and I just didn't want to work in that industry. I just loved what I was doing. And they said, you ever thought about a career in sports? And I was like, well, I played sports, but never a career in it. So they introduced me to somebody who was teaching a certificate program at NYU at the time. So I said, all right, I'll try a class, and went there and ended up actually liking it. And so I ended up pursuing the certificate program while I was working in banking. And then I was running a service team at the Madison Square Garden branch downstairs, right, for Chase Manhattan Bank, and ended up meeting a lot of the Knicks executives. And they had told me,
hold on one
go ahead.
second. You said Chase Manhattan. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chase Manhattan. Yeah, Chase Manhattan Bank.
I'm like, that's so long ago, because it's like, wow, but go ahead, sorry.
Well,
So sorry about that.
I'll take you even further back, because I was there when we merged with Chemical Bank, right? So that's how far back I go. So remember, Chemical merged with Manufacturers Hanover, Manny Hanny, and then Chase and Chemical merged. So I was part of that merger, and we were consolidating branches, and that's how I ended up in Madison Square Garden, and ended up meeting some of the Knicks executives. They told me to come upstairs and work during the game night marketing staff. That was during '99, which was the strike season. So we didn't start until January. And that was the year we ended up going to the finals when Ewing got hurt.
Yeah.
And we ended up losing to David Robinson and Tim Duncan in the Spurs that year. But I was there for that. So I worked that whole season and ended up getting my certificate in sports management at NYU. The next year they turned it into an MS program, but it's all right. I got my certificate. Ended up meeting someone at ESPN, and they wanted to hire me, but it was an entry-level position. And I had already been out of school 6 years. I was a assistant vice president at Chase, and I was doing well. And I said, no, you know what? I think I want to get in this industry. So ended up taking a 50% pay cut and moving down to an assistant level to get into ESPN. And that was in '99. And I rose my way up over the next 26 years in the industry. So that's how I got in.
Definitely interesting. I just did a previous show where I always say that wherever we end up doing was not how we started.
Very true.
So that's the reason I said, let me find out, how you got into it. And it's funny because I used to have an account at Chemical before it changed to Chase Manhattan, because Chase Manhattan was Chase Manhattan was one bank.
Correct. This is before JP Morgan. This is before even Chase. The only thing that Chase had, they had bought Lincoln Financial up in Rochester, New York. So that was separate. And at the time, and this is how far back we go, right? You couldn't go to like Syracuse Chase to do your banking because if you worked in New York or lived in New York, it was two different systems. Yeah. Everything was different. So we didn't have the integration that we have now. But yeah, that was it was actually an interesting experience for 5.5, 6 years. Met some good people, learned about the banking industry too. So I enjoyed it, but it helped me get to the Garden branch where I ended up meeting the Knicks folks, and ended up there and at ESPN. So it was a good entry point for me to get to where I was.
So what would you consider your like I don't want to say high point because you may not have reached it yet, but what I mean is as far as all your years working wherever you work, whether it was a bank, whether ESPN, wherever, what has been the highlight so far? And I had the question in my head, but it's not coming out correctly. But basically, like, what's the high point, or what's the best time you've had so far when when it comes to your work? Because I want to get into that
You
before we
know,
get into the entrepreneurship aspect.
yeah, no, I tell you, when I was at ESPN, I learned the business, right? And that was one of the things I'm very appreciative of, is that I learned the business of sports media at ESPN. We used to take quizzes at ESPN. They gave us monthly quizzes in sports media. Yeah, it really taught you the business. And just side note, remember when we had that blackout in 2002, I believe it was? Remember we had the East Coast blackout? Right? I forgot what year. It might have been 2002, 2003. I forgot what year it was. But that time is exactly why we had to take quizzes, because all the computers were shut down. We had to do media math by hand. And because of that experience, and because they drilled it on us and I spent so much time there, I learned about sales planning, television revenue, et cetera. So there's nothing anybody can tell me about the business of TV, right? Because we learned it from the inside out, the basics, the lowest level, all the way to the highest. So I say that to say that being at ESPN is a big company. And we had just been acquired by Disney like 2 weeks after I got there. So I went from being a ESPN employee to a Disney employee in 2 weeks. And I learned the business there. And then I found that I didn't want to work in big companies. And I got the opportunity to go to a startup called College Sports Television, or CSTV at the time. Ended up going there, and that was my true path, which was to build startup companies. So for the next 21 years, I spent in startups at College Sports Television, which became CBS Sports Network, Big Lead Sports, well, actually Fantasy Sports Ventures, then it became Big Lead Sports, and then it became USA Today Sports Media Group. I was at Interactive One, which was owner of Black Planet, and then, Radio One came in and bought that. And then Shadow League, which I ran for 6 years, and then my company, First and Penn. So the startups is where I really, found my path, if you will. And I say that because I want to answer your question properly, is that to me, I'm most proud of building startups when people thought we couldn't do it, right? They thought CBS or CSTV couldn't do it. I ended up being the number one salesperson there for pretty much 4 of the 5 years there, and we did some amazing things. When I went to Big Lead Sports, it was the same thing. When I was at Interactive One, same thing, and then Shadow League, we, first 2 years was tough, and we didn't know we were going to be able to make it. And then all of a sudden we hit profitability in 3, and boom, next 2-3 years we were doing really well, when people were like, oh, the undefeated is going to kick your butt. Oh, ESPN is going to do this. And we maintained independency for 6.5 years. And we did some amazing stuff over there. So I am most proud of taking startups to places that people thought we couldn't make, places people thought we couldn't do. When boxing was brought back to Barclays Center, I think it was in 2013 or 14, and we were covering it at the Shadow League. We end up being in the 3rd row behind the ring, right? So you've got the broadcast crew, you've got sort of the endemic publishers like Ring Magazine, and then you got us. Now we're a new publisher, and everyone's like, how the hell are they sitting in front of us? We're USA Today, we're this, we're that. And that made me really proud, because the people who I hired to work with us took the sport seriously, where the boxing, promoters really saw our value. Yeah. So when they're questioning, like, why are they in the front row? It's because our work is so good, because we take our work seriously. So those are things I'm most proud of, is that we took startups to a place that everyone thought we couldn't do it, and we did.
Yeah. So your experience startups basically prepared you for First and Penn.
Yes.
What was the theory behind starting first in pen, and I mean, of course, your experience doing everything else definitely helped. But what about starting your own thing has made it unique for you as far as experience outside of working with corporate America, even if it's a startup or not?
One of the things I didn't like was that, and you know this, right? Digital media has transformed the way people tell stories, the way
Consumer.
people communicate, the way people learn and connect. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the way digital media, particularly in sports, obviously other industries as well, but particularly in sports, because that's my industry, was like, no, just write 100-word story. We'll get it out. We'll drive traffic. We'll make money. It's like, yeah, but it's not a good story. Who cares? Just put it up and do. I didn't like the way the industry was going. And I said, you know what? It's my money. It's my company. Let me start this thing that I think if everyone is playing on this side in this area and there's nobody over here because they all feel it's not valuable, I'm going to go do that. Right. And so that's when I launched First and Pen. And the idea behind it is it's a play on First and 10, right? To keep that sports theme. But the pen came into it because I felt sports writing was becoming very diluted and it was becoming very generic. And unfortunately, people who are really talented in the industry were being pushed into a path that they had to take their talents out to write quick hitting content. And it's no longer the informative type of stuff, right? It's really just, oh, this one won, this how many points it was, or let me put up some gossip, or let me do this thing on this stupid fight or whatever. And I'm like, anyone can do that. That's easy. You don't even have to be a journalism major, right? So I launched First and Pen to be sort of the opposite of where the industry was going. And I think people really took to it. And one of the areas I found success was our Black and brown professors who are historians, sociologists, psychologists, etc. They started hitting me up about, hey, I'd love to write sports content. The problem is if I do it for an academic journal, it's got to be 10,000 words and researched and all this. So I said, you know what? Come write for me. Some of them were writing for me at Shadow League. So I said, come write for me. This way you can write, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a heavy lift. And it's a more consistent place and a destination for you to write. So we found success with our Black professors at schools and universities across the country. I have people in New England, New York, Wisconsin, Michigan, Chicago, LA, people hitting us up, about, hey, I'd love to write. And it was very rewarding for me because I think people see the value of it. They don't want to just sit there and be like, all right, I can write 200 words and I'm done. It's like, no, I can put some nuance, I can put some thought and perspective into something. And I think it's been a great experience.
That's definitely what I'm getting feedback. I don't know why. I'm sorry. So being as a okay, and I know in your previous jobs,
Mm-hmm.
or you either ran a department, a company, whatever. But being that this is your company itself, like it's your company, everything
Mm-hmm.
comes down to you. How does like not having to answer to anybody or having to come in at a situation where you have whatever goals because now you have your own goals.
Right.
How does the mindset going forward when you are doing your business, whatever it is, whether it's on the creative side, whether it's on the business side, whether it's on the financial side, how do you tackle things that you don't even have to? I mean, I guess it's kind of easier, but it doesn't necessarily mean that doesn't have to be because you're approaching it in a different mindset. How has your mindset changed from having to meet numbers to actually maybe creating your own or having other people take the position of meeting the numbers for you now?
Well, it's interesting. I'll answer the last part first.
Okay.
I don't have a number goal, right? I don't have that anymore, which is, it's good and bad, right? There's no one saying you better put out 3 pieces a day and drive this traffic and we need 20 million monthly uniques or whatever. Would I want that scale? It'd be great if I had it, right? But I don't necessarily focus on that because I think what happens is that anyone can do that. Anyone. It's not like it's a secret how to drive scale. how to drive traffic. Everybody knows what the tricks are. Everyone knows they go to the same people, whether they buy it, whether they share it, it's the same thing, right? So I don't really have that mindset or that goal. My goal is I really wanted to create something different, and I believe that once you do, people will find it. And even if it's smaller, okay, listen, if I never reach 100,000 million, if I never reach that goal, but I'm creating something that people really enjoy and that is doing something different, I'm fine with it. You know why? Because it's on my dime, first of all. It's on my time. I funded it myself. And I've met some really good people along the way who have helped me, whether it's discounted rates or even doing it for free because they've known me for a long time. So there's been some great people that have given me assists when I need it, and have not asked for anything in return, like equity of the company or anything. They just say, hey, listen, you were good. You were always good to us when we were working. Yeah, I'll help you out with this, etc. So I don't really have that type of pressure. The only thing I do put pressure on myself, which is tough, is how do you keep pace when things are moving quickly? Because as you know, in sports, things go like this, right? We're seeing it with DK Metcalf right now for Pittsburgh last night. He got into an altercation with the fans, and all this stuff was flying around. I haven't written a story on it yet. Why? Because I know this is what's happening. They saw it. Everyone puts a video out. Oh, he did this. Why do you punch a fan? He can't do that. He's going to get suspended. He's going to get fined, blah, blah. But you don't know what happened yet. So I'm not going to put out something on it yet just to get a quick hit, right? I'm not going to do that. And I'm not insulting anyone who does that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's not for me. I would rather have a different take on it. So I'm waiting to see what happens. There's reports now that DK is saying that the guy used racial things, that he had a previous altercation with him last year, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I don't need to rush it because my traffic is whatever it is right now. So yeah. I know it's a long-winded way to answer your question, but
no, it's fine. Why is my microphone acting up? But when you state that, because I came up at a time when I launched the industry cosign, March will be 22 years. It was an atmosphere where the first person wins. The first person that posts wins.
Yeah.
As far as online, because online still wasn't a thing yet. And I noticed that even nowadays with so many blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts, and things of that nature, where people still have the same mindset, but even if they put out something that's not right or it changes up, their goal isn't to be right. Their goal is to be first.
Right.
Why do you think that people still have the mentality when, as you stated, your approach, which is more so my approach as well, because sometimes, like I'll use Sherrone Moore as an example.
Mm-hmm.
That situation has gotten about 50 stories within 10 days. And it's like, so the people that first got it that he was, terminated for whatever, missed the boat because by the time other things came out, it was a bigger story and then they couldn't catch up from my observation. Why do you think that people have the mindset that they have to be first as opposed to have to be right?
Because it's a social media play right now.
Yeah.
Right. So meaning, where do you get your news first? Like a lot of people, younger generation, like my college students, for example, I'll ask them, hey, did you read this or did you see this? No. You didn't watch local news last night? No. How do you get your news? Oh, I go to Instagram or Twitter. I'm like, all right, well, what sites do you go to? Do you go to this news site, your local? No, there's this guy who does news, right? And I'm sitting there going, you don't even know. You don't know if he or she is credible. You just don't know. You just see it and you like it, so you think it's all good. And that's something that drives me insane because we see, we see so many false stories, people putting out clickbait or quick hitting things for whatever reason it is. And that's when it becomes a cycle, right? And I didn't want to participate in that cycle anymore. And here's the thing, interesting thing you brought up, Sherrone Moore. When it happened, those of us who have been in this industry a long time, those of us who have experience and understanding and education, we knew there was more to that than just him, cheating on his wife with a girl. We know that. We knew there was more to it. So you have a choice at that moment. You can either A, run with the story. Sherrone Moore cheated. Oh, he loves white girls and blah, blah. You could run with that. Or B, you could wait and you could see what's going on. And then you can formulate a perspective. It doesn't have to be a timeline of everything, but you can see what's happening. And now, what do we see? He was fired on that Wednesday, and literally 4 or 5 days, things just started to keep coming out, keep coming out, keep coming out. So, do you write a story every time something comes out? Some places do that, right, for traffic purposes. Or could you write something like I decided to write, which is that there's more to that story. However, him being black did not cause all that drama. So let's not make it where he's a black coach doing wrong because he's black. But guess what? Being black is still a part of what's going to be happening in the aftermath now. And you
Right.
have to address that, right? So that's the perspective I took.
And it's funny you said it because I'm still freelancing for Black Enterprise, but I'm also freelancing for the Root. So the
Mhm.
stories I'm writing for the Root and writing for Black Enterprise are two different things from the
Yeah.
same um, topic of discussion. And it's just funny how the audience consumes things. And as you
Mhm.
stated, the younger audience are quick to believe anything that's posted online,
Mhm.
even if it's not. I mean, I'm glad that Trump. No, let me rephrase that. Trump, his first presidency was a reason why fact checking became a thing.
Yeah.
Because people fact check, but when he came out, it's like he says it's snowing, you got to fact check because it'd be 90 degrees outside. But it seems as if like it's turning back around where nobody cares about fact checking anymore,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
shame.
It is
I,
a shame, and I tell you, said it's frustrating because I see how detrimental it's become, and this is across all industries, not just sports, not just politics, all industries. And in I'm Jamaican, right? So I got more than one job, you know that. So for me, I'm looking at it from an educator. I'm like, my God, what's going on with my students, right? When they come to me and I get them in college, right? So they're already, whether they're coming out of high school or I get them at the grad level, there are so many thoughts and so much lack of understanding. It just blows my mind all the time. And I'm like, my God, what you did you actually believe that? You actually believe that, right? So it's really it's disheartening to see that people just will say anything. And I'm
yeah,
a firm believer in free speech, right? But I believe that you can be someone who believes in free speech as long as you understand what comes with that, right? So if you lie or whatever, be prepared for the consequences. If you want to go in on somebody, be prepared for the consequences, right? Firm believer in that. But I also believe you got to be factual. You cannot BS people. And most people will be smart enough to know when you're BSing them.
yeah. So being that you've been in the industry for so many years and you're a little bit older, speaking to college students,
Mhm.
based on like what you've learned over the years and what how do you deal with the divide of like we said, we came up at a time where everything was fact checked and proven before it was put out there. And I
Yeah.
just mean as in general
Mhm.
when you're speaking to the students because they have the mindset that if it's not on TikTok, I can't believe it, or whatever silliness. And I say silliness because I can. But how do you handle being somebody who has to basically lead them to a field that they want to take part in, but also realizing that the way they think is definitely not in the mindset of being able to align in a way. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm pretty sure you get the gist of it. But like,
Yeah.
there is definitely a divide. But how are you able to get through to them in a way that they can use for their advantage in their world?
So because one of the courses I teach, well, the majority of the course I teach are in sports management. So
Yeah,
that's the business of sport. So it's not really like politics driven or social driven. Now, granted, we all know sports, politics, society, they all have an intimate relationship. We understand that. But I keep it at a business perspective unless there's something political that I need to address. So, for example, the World Cup, right? So the World Cup, Trump has capitalized on this whole making it political. I'm going to move it out of the metro cities, or, I'm going to ban certain countries, whatever it is. That has a potential revenue effect, right? If he starts banning people from certain countries, people can't come in and watch their favorite team, which could result in lower ticket prices, which could, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are things I will address if they come up. My other course I teach is communications, and this is more applicable to your point. The kids that come in and they'll say, like, my God, who was it? Forgot what Trump did. Oh, the election, 2024 election, right? And we had students who were really upset, and we had other students who were not upset. But you could tell when I came to class the next day after election night, I remember seeing everybody's faces. And some people were ready to explode. Some people were so upset. Some people were excited, right? So I said, here's what we're going to do. I always tell people there are 3 subjects we will never talk about in our class: politics, religion, sexual orientation, because they are very opinionated. It's very personal, and I don't feel like fighting with anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
However, I did let them vent that day, and I listened to everybody. And then you begin to fact check. I'm like, all right, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And a lot of times students will be like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, it wasn't on, like you said, it wasn't on the YouTube channel I checked. It's like, well, maybe you should check some different ones, So it's tough. It's tough. But I will say this. I think it's important for us to address it, even though it's frustrating. It is important for us not to let it go when we see BS being literally put out in front of us.
Definitely. Speaking of putting out front, I know that you have a conference
Hmm.
in Baltimore, Get in the Game Sports Business Career Conference.
Yes.
What is it? The purpose, and how did you get it started?
So we are going into year 4 next year. And 5 years ago, I met who was our partner at the time, a guy by the name Mark Sullivan, who was running a company called SBRnet, which is a sports business research data company. We ended up meeting through a get together in Jersey. And he's like, I really wanted to help students, because he was an educator like myself and a longtime industry veteran. And he's like, students say they want to get into sports, but they have no idea what the careers are, what skill sets are needed, etc. So we came up with this idea to create an educational type of event where we could combine education of sports business, meaning the industries, the career pathways, the skill sets, and then the career side of it, where we will actually have recruiters and talent acquisition managers come in to talk to students. Then I said, why don't we make it geared towards, HBCUs and students of color? And the reason is because when I started at ESPN in the television sales planning department, I was the only black male for 4.5 out of my 5 years there, the only one. And there were 2 other black women with me, but I was the only black male there. And I always said, if I could get in a position to create something to help, I definitely would. And this gave me the opportunity. So we launched it in Baltimore because we feel Baltimore gets a bad reputation, because everyone sees The Wire and they just assume that, it's drug deals everywhere, right? And Baltimore, first of all, is not only a great city, but it's a huge sports town. And it also has 3 HBCUs in the general vicinity, right? So we wanted to host it there to break this stereotype about the city and the students. So we launched it in year 1. We had about 130 students. Year 2, we had about 170. And we realized we want to keep it small, less than 200, because this way it's a more intimate, engaging event. It's not a massive career expo. And we didn't want it to be a massive career expo. So this year was year 3, another successful event. It was a little bit smaller because of the travel ban, and a lot of schools had to call out the last minute because they didn't know if their students would be able to get back the next day, because it's held over a weekend, which is fine. But so many more brands have heard about it, students have heard about it, and the thing that makes me the proudest, Ed, we have placed in 3 years, we have placed over 40 students in either internships or part-time jobs
Good luck.
in over 3 years. So really excited. One of my students, he actually just got a job with the Cleveland Cavaliers, so he's moving to Cleveland this spring. So those are the type of things that we do And I think people really taking it to it. The professors are loving it. Sports management journalism, the local brands, national brands. So it's really been something that it's not this massive money maker, but what it is, it's an opportunity to really create a pipeline of qualified candidates of color in an industry that I have spent basically half my life in.
Yeah. Well, with you more than half your life because nothing you stop.
Exactly, right.
So, as if anyone's watching and they want to get into sports management or just the sports industry in general from the non-athletic side, what suggestions would you give them, and what would be the best way for them to pursue?
Well, I think one, you have to figure out what type of person you are first of all. And by that I mean this: if you are somebody that likes to be in front of people and talk to people, okay, that's great. That means you could possibly be in sales or communications or event management. If you are somebody that likes to be in the back, and you don't like to be seen that often, and that's fine, you could be in finance or production or things like that. So once you identify the type of person you are, now you can look at all the different career paths that are more suited for your personality. The funny thing people don't understand about sports, it has the same careers as every other industry, right? It has sales, it has marketing, it has PR, it has events, it has finance, it has HR, everything. So you can go and create a career in the sports industry in any field you want. You just have to understand the skill sets that are required. Once you do that, the hardest thing is breaking in, okay? Because everyone wants to get in. It's a very competitive industry. So you have to be able to say, I'm willing to start at the bottom. Too many people think now this generation feels like they can just jump in and,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm a great writer. I'm a write for the NFL. Oh, I can be on air and do interviews. Really? Okay. And when you tell them and show them what it really consists of, they realize, oh shoot, maybe I'm not built for that. So I think the more willing you are to start at the bottom and learn the industry, the better opportunity you have. And I think that's really important. And that's one of the things that we do at Get in the Game is we really help educate these students. If you want to do this, this is what's going to entail. If you want to do this, this is what it entails. So I think is again identifying what type of person you are, understanding what career path you'd like to take, understand the skills that you need, and then don't be afraid to start at the bottom. I did, and it's a career, a path I made my career out of for 26 years now.
Which is the reason why I said more than half. But anyway, now let me stop. But I mean, as you stated, you're living proof of that because as you stated, you were making money and you took a 50% pay cut to get into the industry, but it became a career move where it was sustainable.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of people, as you stated today, everybody wants the easy way in. They get a YouTube channel, they put themselves on YouTube. Now they're a sports commentator, and they think they're gonna be, they're gonna. I mean, for some it might work, but I think it is important to people to realize that sometimes steps need to be taken, or that they really have to put in the work because it seems from what I view in my
Yeah.
fields that people just think that everything is just that easy. So I'm
I tell you, everybody wants to be Stephen A. Smith. There are very few people who are willing to put in the work that he put in. Okay. Regardless how you feel about him. I don't
yeah,
care how people feel about him. That guy started writing when he was in college, at Winston-Salem State. He started writing then, and he took on tough stories where he actually wrote stories against the legendary coach, what was his name? Coach Gaines, right? And he got into trouble there, and it didn't deter him from pursuing a career in journalism where he went to Daily News, Philadelphia, all these places. And then people don't remember when he was at ESPN, he even talks about it. He got a big head. He thought he was all that and got fired. They fired him, and people
imagine,
forgot
imagine, imagine Stephen A. Smith with a big head.
it, right? Now he can have that,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But people don't understand the work that he had to put in to get to where
Exactly.
he's making 20 million plus a year, to where he can do sports, with First Take, and then go have his own talk show later on. Regardless, again, how you feel about him, whether you agree, disagree, from a career, that is very rare. But it's because he learned and he made the mistake and then had to backtrack and then learn the ratings game. And once he learned the television ratings game, which is not something everybody understands, but once you learn it, the business side, you learn TV said, that once you learn the TV side, you can now make moves much easier than just someone jumping on YouTube with a microphone and being like, let's talk about DK Metcalf and he punched that guy in the face. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that.
Yep. Shouts to Stephen A. Smith, even though, no. Let me stop. Is there anything coming up or anything that you're working on or that you'd like to talk about for 2026 and beyond? I mean, it's going to be here like we got to go to sleep and it's going to be 2026. So,
I think for me, it's continued growth of First and Pen, right? How do we continue to develop a voice? Obviously, I've been funding it out of my own pocket, so I haven't been able to do, make it a huge thing yet. But not all money is good money, right? So I don't want to just take any money. I think it's very important that anyone who I did decide to work with has to understand the vision of it.
Yeah.
But for me, one of the things that we did at Shadow League, which I was very proud about, we focused on projects that had great meaning. And by that, I'll give you an example. We did something called College Football Narratives, where we focused on the greatest Black quarterbacks in college football history. Names that we grew up on, but this current generation don't know, right? So they know Michael Vick, and we featured him, but they don't know Joe Hamilton. They don't know Charlie Ward. They don't know Don McPherson. They don't know, who else do we have? Oh my God, Michael Bishop, right? Jamel Holloway.
Mm-hmm.
So preserving history and sharing it and teaching history is something I want to do this year, because as you see, Black history is being erased very quickly from all levels, right? But because I'm owned and operated by myself, I can preserve that history with no problems.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm looking to do for 2026 is to preserve history by teaching it and sharing it with people. Because listen, it's not just, Michael Jordan in basketball. It's not just, this one in football. There's bodybuilding stories, there's tennis stories, there's, martial arts stories of Black athletes that people need to know about, both male and female. So that's something I'm going to focus on for this year.
Good. Is there anything that you wish you wait? I got to phrase the question correctly. Is there anything that you've done you would do over again, and if it was, what would it be and why?
It's funny. I was asked this question at the conference too. I would have done two things. One, I would have taken school a lot more seriously when I was in college, particularly grade wise, right? I think a lot of students, as a professor, I can say this, a lot of students feel they can just get by, right? Now, I'm just going to get a C or a B. You're capable of getting an A, but you're just going to get a C or a B, right? I had that same mentality early on until I found the major I found and the writing that I loved, and that helped me ascend, right? But I would have taken my grades a lot more seriously. I didn't do bad, but I would have done a lot better. And then two, I would have been a little more assertive as I was coming up in the sports industry. I think many times I took sort of a back seat, like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do, and I don't think I was as aggressive as I could have been to take some opportunities and risks. I mean, I took risks, right, being startups, but I think if I could have been more assertive, I would have definitely done that. But overall, I've been very fortunate to have a career in an industry that is very hard to get into. I've been fortunate to meet some really good people in the industry who have supported me, across my career, who continue to support me. So from that standpoint, I'd say I'm very fortunate, and also very proud of some of the things that we have been able to do And now it's my opportunity to make sure we continue to be in those spaces, you know.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, I do appreciate your time. Good luck with everything. And how can anyone reach out to you if they're interested in first and pen or getting the game or just want to get advice or just have a conversation with you?
Yeah, so First and Pen, it's first FIRSTAND pen.com. You can hit us up, the Instagram, Twitter, and excuse me, not Twitter, X, right? And Threads. It's the same
Twitter.
thing, First and Pen as Twitter, right? And you can also hit us up First and Pen at theconategroup.com. And then let's see, what was the other thing you asked me about?
I don't even remember. That's how old I am.
It was
Just if anybody wants to contact you or if there's
yeah,
anything,
hit me up that way through social media. It's me who runs it, so you'll be talking to me if you get a response. Just know that. And definitely check us out. I love hearing from people what they're thinking, some of the pitches that people have been sending. So definitely hit us up. I would definitely appreciate it.
And once again, I do appreciate your time, your words, and finding out what you're doing, and of course, wishing you luck. And if I could do anything, just let me know. And I mean, like I said, the year is over. Like we're gonna sneeze, and it's gonna be 2027. Like Lord, man.
Yeah.
But blessings towards everything, and for everyone that's stuck until the end. Once again, this is Big Said Industry Cosign. My friends are better than yours. And as I always say, if you think your friends are better than mine, either they're already my friends or I'll prove you wrong. Until next time, once again, Yussuf Khan and everyone else, till next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Peace. No problem.